one of the things that we think we offer our pilots is a way to get to the flight line a lot quicker without the hundreds of hours of flight experience to be proficient and confident. We can now open up the potential of drones to pilots with a lot less flight time.
You're listening to the Drone Radio Show podcast, the show about drones and the people who use them for business, fun, and research. Hosted by Randy Goers.
Hello, everyone. This is Randy Goers, and welcome to the Drone Radio Show podcast, episode 200. Is there a better way to control a drone? Today's guest thinks there is, and he's here to talk about it. Dr. Scott Parenzski is a highly decorated physician and astronaut, recently inducted into the U.S. Astronaut Hall of Fame. Scott has lived and traveled all over the world, spending many of his grade school years in places like Senegal, Lebanon, Iran, and Greece. A graduate of Stanford University and medical school, he went on to train at Harvard and in Denver in emergency medicine. In 1992, he was selected to join NASA's astronaut corps and eventually flew 5 space shuttle missions and conducted 7 spacewalks. In October 2007, Scott led the spacewalking team on STS-120, during which he performed 4 EVAs. In addition to being a diver and an accomplished mountaineer, Scott is also a commercial instrument multi-engine and seaplane rated pilot. On May 20th, 2009, he became the first and so far only astronaut to climb to the top of Mount Everest. He is a prolific product developer and serves on the boards of several companies. He recently launched Fluidity Technologies, a technology innovation company focused on redefining movement through 3-dimensional space. Its mission is to simplify and improve motion in an increasingly complex world. In the fall of 2018, Fluidity Technologies launched the FT Aviator, its first single-handed flight control device for drones, designed to dramatically increase the precision of drone flight while tremendously simplifying it. In this edition of the Drone Radio Show, Scott talks about the Fluidity FT Aviator, the challenges of starting a new drone company, and how seeing the world from space and Mount Everest compares with creating a new product. But before we hear from Scott, I want to thank those of you who are supporting my funding campaign. Now you have the option of making a one-time donation in any amount by going to droneradioshow.com/donate. Whether it's $1, $100, or much more, you can help defray the cost of production and keep the podcast going and growing. And if you'd like to make a monthly contribution, you can still go to patreon.com/droneradioshow. So let's hear how a new flight controller can make flying a drone simple and easy with Scott Parenzski of Fluidity Technologies. Let's pick up the interview where I asked Scott to introduce himself.
My name is Scott Parenzski. I'm the founder and CEO of Fluidity Technologies, a very young, small tech startup, 5 employees currently with outsourced engineering to start. But we have developed really revolutionary ways to move through physical and virtual space. So basically, control systems that will allow drone pilots to almost subconsciously move through the sky, but those same tools can also one day be used for computer gaming, virtual and augmented reality, even surgical robotics. So we found a way to really translate the user's intent into motion, whether it's a physical asset like a drone or a virtual environment like a computer game or something of that nature.
What led you to launching a startup company?
I'm a physician by training, but I became a NASA astronaut. I flew 5 times on the space shuttle, did a whole bunch of spacewalks, flew robotic arms, flew jet aircraft, flew virtual reality simulators, lots of different flight environments that I've been fortunate enough to work in. And actually, it wasn't until after I left NASA, I was working at a major medical research institute evaluating surgical robotics tools. And I realized there had to be a whole lot better way to move a surgical robot through a human body than what they were doing at the time, and even to this day. So I invented the technology that's the core of our company, But when looking at the entire marketplace of things that we could do with our control system, the drone marketplace really stepped out as something that we could really make a difference in. It's a rapidly growing, enormous market, especially enterprise users who have to use these things in very challenging environments, challenging dynamic environments, with tools that were essentially invented back in the 1930s. We've had almost no innovation in control systems for 8 decades. And so enter Fluidity, we have a way in which we can reduce the pilot workload so that you don't have to really think about how you're getting to your destination. You can really focus on the imagery that you're out there to get.
Are we basically talking about a handheld controller, or is it more involved than that?
Well, it's an optionally a handheld controller. It can be placed on a tripod, mounted on any other type of surface that you'd like, but typically held with your non-dominant hand. And then your dominant hand grasps a joystick, but there's a thumb and index finger interface that allow you to control the vertical axis, what we call the Z-axis. So you can either pull in with your index finger or pull up with your thumb to ascend. In drone parlance, it's the throttle. And then you move the stick forward to move forward, left, right, and twisting of the stick allows you to adjust the yaw. And so the cool thing about it, we call it correlated motion, but your thumb tip becomes the virtual nose of the drone. And within a few seconds of working with this thing, you can do a perfect figure 8. You can do an inward facing ascending spiral, all these maneuvers that it would take hundreds of hours, if not more, to really master with traditional twin stick controls. And then what we've done is we've also built in really intuitive, exciting ways to control your camera assets. So we have a tilt paddle that is mapped geometrically to the drone instead of, I don't know about you, but I always forget which way to pull the tilt on a traditional radio. This tilt paddle is actually mapped up and down so that you know which way you're going to move the camera when you move the paddle. We have other camera and sensitivity adjustment features built right into the hand controller, so you can make adjustments on the fly instead of having to take your hands off of the controls, work with the app for a little bit, set the shutter speed or what have you, and continue flying. You can do this all seamlessly as you're on your way out to your work site. And then we also have situational awareness cues built into the controller, visual cues that tell you where your drone is in the sky and its relative yaw. So if you get close to a cliff or a tree or a tower and you want to back away from it gracefully, but you don't really have good view of the visual indicators on the drone, you can sleuth that out very easily with the visual indicators. And we have tactile feedback to know when you're inputting a command and when you're not. So all told, it's just a really immersive way to pilot a drone. And we think it's going to allow many more people to fly in really dynamic, challenging environments.
Is it more like an aircraft joystick as opposed to the handheld controllers that we use today?
Much more akin to a joystick, correct. It's got this dynamic balance for the fourth axis of control that our rotational hand controller doesn't offer. So it's got quite a bit of uniqueness to it in the control system, but it looks and behaves much more like a joystick than the twin sticks that typical drones are flown with today.
How intuitive is it for someone to use? I mean, how long do you think it would take someone to get their drone up and running?
What was so fun about being at CES, we had people who had obviously expert drone pilots to absolute lay people come up, and within seconds, they were flying perfect figure 8s in our simulator at our booth at CES. We've seen similar things when we're out flying in the community here in Houston, Texas. People pick up the Fluidity FT Aviator and are doing things that they didn't think they were capable of doing. It takes about 30 seconds of instruction. You put your hands on it, you feel what you're inputting, and you see what's happening on your drone, and it just becomes almost second nature.
Is it compatible with all drones on the market today?
Not quite, but as you know, DJI is the world leader. 72% of the market is a DJI drone. And so we communicate with the vast majority of their platforms, from the Mavic Air up to the Matrice series. There are a few drones with integrated screens that we can't yet talk to, but we're working on that. And we're also we've had a lot of connectivity with other major drone manufacturers in the world who are very excited to get the FT Aviator working with their drone systems. But our initial product offering, just to complete my answer, was designed around the DJI software developer kit. So we're launching with DJI compatibility, but we hope to be able to support DIYers and perhaps other big brands like Unique and Parrot and Autel in the future.
Are there any other requirements that a user would need?
Great question. So we, with the DJI fleet, actually use the native DJI radio. So that's still in the circuit, if you will. Our controller communicates via Bluetooth to the smartphone of choice, Android or iOS. And then there's a wired connection from your display, your smartphone or your smart tablet to the radio. And then there's a communication link out to the drone and back. So the one other thing that you would probably need is either a lanyard, which we offer with our kit, or you might want to have a tripod. Some people, I think, will like to fly with the tripod system as well. There is a unique app that comes with the controller, a Fluidity FT Aviator app that would be very familiar to most DJI pilots. We have some unique features that are built into it, unique to our control system, but that's the other part of the equation for flying with our system.
Is there a specific use case or a subsector of the industry that would probably find greater value using the controller than others?
In terms of use cases, we think that we're going to be very, very useful for anyone who uses a drone in a dynamic environment. This wouldn't be something that you would use with a under the Christmas tree toy drone, but from the Mavic series on up to the Matrice 600, anyone who's using a drone for serious cinematography, inspection, public safety, one of the things that we think we offer our pilots is a way to get to the flight line a lot quicker without the hundreds of hours of flight experience to be proficient and confident. We can now open up the potential of drones to pilots with a lot less flight time. And so enterprise users in particular, but you think about cinematography, real estate, wedding photographers, anyone who's out there using a drone in an unscripted way, the FT Aviator is going to be really a powerful tool in their toolkit.
How can people get the FT Aviator?
We're doing pre-sales right now through our website, www.fluidity.tech, and we'll be shipping in the latter part of March. So it's just right around the corner. We had a wonderful pre-sales campaign on Kickstarter, one of the top campaigns of the year, but now we're really getting close to the actual product release. We're assembled in America, place in Corinth, Mississippi, the final assembly and all the circuit boards. And we just can't wait to get them into the hands of our pilots.
Is this your first experience at running a company?
Great question. I've been a part of a lot of different startups, and I'm sat on boards and other things of that nature. But this is the first time in the driver's seat, so it's been a real adventure. Quite honestly, one of the toughest things I've ever done. There's thousands of details, and the details really matter in a technology startup. So thankfully, I've recruited a wonderful team of folks to work with me. We have some amazing engineers around the country who've really matured our designs and made them robust for our customers. So I'm feeling really good about our first product release, but we won't be a one-hit wonder. We have literally dozens of different iterations, not only in the drone world, but for gaming, for computer-aided design, for surgical robotics, even for helicopters. We have visions that Fluidity Technologies will be a platform for mobility across many different industries.
When did the company actually launch?
I launched it in January of 2016. No shortcuts getting to the starting line here.
What surprised you most about launching your own company?
Well, there's so many incredible lessons learned. I guess I had a naive view of what it would take to actually get to this point. I thought that the toughest part would be actually the invention, the catalyst of the company. And once you have a great idea, you could get people behind it, investors, and things would go flawlessly, seamlessly through research and development and manufacturing. But there are little gremlins that pop up all the time, and you have to be resilient and tenacious. One of the toughest things actually was raising the first large bit of money. Not being a tried and tested CEO yet, I had to really demonstrate that we knew what we were doing. We were going to be good stewards of the investors' money. And so that's a lengthy process, and it took a whole lot longer than I expected.
Do you think that your background as an astronaut helped in getting the funding and moving the company along?
I think it helped a lot. The focus on mission, the tenacity that is required in the space program and in medicine, really, I think, set me up well for success in this line of work. But it's not for the faint-hearted. It's a challenging road, but it's incredibly exciting, incredibly rewarding. Being at CES and seeing the excitement in people's eyes when they really got it. They understood why we needed the FT Aviator. They knew that they could pilot really well with it. It really drove home that we were on the right track.
Did you have any experience with drones before you started tinkering with this idea?
I've loved drones since the first Under the Christmas Tree toy drones started appearing at Best Buy and Fry's. I've always been an early tech adopter. I love anything that flies, of course, and so I got some of the first drones. My first serious drone was a Phantom 2, which unfortunately our FT Aviator doesn't talk to. That was sort of one that required some soldering and aftermarket modification to really get up and going, as I'm sure you're aware. But we're now compatible with the Phantom 3 and above, and we have a whole air force of different drones that I get a chance to fly now. It's fun to have a job where you get a chance to fly drones, isn't it?
Now, the idea for creating the controller for the drone industry, did a light bulb go off, or did the idea sort of evolve?
It was sort of an evolved decision. So, I really thought that we could go straight to surgical robotics. The problem, of course, is the regulatory flow getting through the FDA is really challenging. It's years and probably tens, if not hundreds of millions of dollars to get a brand new system like this through to start helping patients. And so when we did a careful market analysis, what really stepped forward were two industries, the computer gaming and the drone marketplace, where there were customers who had an appetite for this and a real need for innovation. And so with my love of aviation and just doing a lot of market research with different user groups, we concluded that this was the place to start for us. And we think that based on the lessons learned from the drone market, we'll be able to mature the technologies even for surgical robotics one day.
When you made the decision to enter the drone industry, had the technology evolved far enough along, or was there a lot of re-engineering?
There's quite a bit of work, actually, to make it unique to the drone pilot. We had to really understand what their choke points were, the difficulty in getting smooth, precise imagery, the workload that they face. We really spent a lot of time trying to understand what their needs were. We know that the training burden and proficiency training burden is really enormous, and it probably prevents a lot of public safety organizations like police and fire to really use these tools widely. We think now with the Fluidity FT Aviator, every squad car, every fire rig should have a drone on board, and anybody in the firehouse should be able to use it, not just one or two people in the organization who may or may not be on shift at the time when it's needed.
Does using the controller reduce the time to get a drone in the air?
I think it's about the same. Once you're up in there, that's where your savings happen. It's the efficiency of movement, the simplicity of movement. You can avoid what we call pilot-induced oscillations, the over and under controlling on your way to get to where you want to get your point of view.
When you look back at climbing Mount Everest, flying in the shuttle 5 times, walking in space, and now starting a brand new company, how do they all compare in terms of excitement and the emotion?
Well, they're all incredibly exciting in very, very different ways. So, obviously there's no life threat in being a CEO, but overcoming challenges, the facing unknowns, the rewards for success are all really wonderful. So, like I said earlier, I really love what I'm doing. And the other cool thing about my current day job working with drone flight controllers is that I get a chance to go out and play and fly drones on a regular basis. So that's not half bad.
I imagine the view from Mount Everest and from space are both amazing.
Yeah, I was so lucky to have those vantage points. One of the really wonderful things about my summit day on Everest is that I got to the summit right before sunrise. So I was able to get up there, and hopefully none of your viewers are flat earthers, but you can really clearly see the curvature of Earth from the top of Everest as well. But what was unique about seeing a sunrise from the top of Everest, it was almost like seeing a sunrise from space, but instead of just lasting seconds, it lasted for perhaps 30 minutes. So I'll never forget that perspective of seeing the sun rise from the limb of Earth and the full spectrum of light come up from that vantage point. But they're incredibly powerful life experiences. And to be floating there, flying over the Himalayas on board the space shuttle or outside on a spacewalk, there are no words that can do justice to that. It's I just hope that with this current day and age, with companies like Virgin Galactic and Blue Origin and SpaceX, that many more people are going to have the opportunity to see some of the things I've witnessed.
Now, getting back to Fluidity, where do you hope to take the company?
Well, we're really excited about potentially partnering with DJI to potentially more closely integrate with their ecosystem, ideally to build in a radio within our controller so that the secondary radio would not be required. So that's one of our short-term goals. We also really love the Epson Moverio. I'm not sure if you've flown with that, but it's sort of a Google Glass environment where you can see through the glass and have line of sight to your drone, but you can also project the video stream and even augmented reality onto your lens. And so it's a more immersive onboard feel. With the tactile feed that we have from our physical controller, coupled with something like Epson Moverio, I think it's a huge game changer for drone pilots to really be immersed in the scene that they're capturing. So those are short-term goals that we have for our technology. We have many other advancements that we want to roll out for the drone pilot community. And then we hope to be able to make it possible to fly helicopters, submersibles, ROVs, computer games, and surgical robots in the not-too-distant future.
Okay, tell us again, where can people buy the FT Aviator?
For our listeners, we can certainly take your pre-order on our website, fluidity.tech, and it's at a deep discount. The MSRP is actually going to jump up to $449, so now is a really great time to buy. We'll be shipping in the latter part of March, so just a few weeks away. Yeah, we're on the starting line. Can't wait to share this product with the world.
And my final question, Scott, what message would you like to leave regarding the future of the drone industry?
It's so exciting. There are many different industries that are starting to realize the power of drones, and I don't think we've thought of them all yet. I think where Fluidity will be really instrumental is that human-machine interface. So even though we're going to see more and more automation in our drone flying, especially routine types of missions, there's always going to be a need for a pilot in the loop. When you're doing a security mission and you've got this auto sequence going, but you see something that you don't recognize, you'd want to take over manually and fly down and inspect. Whether or not delivery flights start to happen on a regular basis, again, flying over people, flying in dynamic, unscripted, changing environments, having a pilot in the loop is going to be really important. And I think our technology makes it possible for someone without a lot of flight time to be able to fly with great precision. We're excited to support the growth of this industry. And, I can't wait to have my own personal multi-copter to tool around town with. That's what I really want.
That's it for episode 200 of the Drone Radio Show. I hope you enjoyed hearing from Scott Parenzski of Fluidity Technologies. I want to thank Scott for taking the time to speak with me. If you want to learn more about Fluidity Technologies, its new FT Aviator, or want to connect with Scott, check out the webpage at fluidity.tech. If you like the Drone Radio Show, please consider supporting the podcast with a small donation. The content is always free, but for as little as $1, you can help defray the cost of production. To donate, go to droneradioshow.com/donate or patreon.com/Drone Radio Show. And thanks for listening. Your support means a lot to me, and I hope you'll listen to more episodes of the Drone Radio Show podcast to hear how others are using drones for business, fun, and research. For the Drone Radio Show, I'm Randy Goers.
This has been the Drone Radio Show podcast. More information on today's show can be found on our website at www.droneradioshow.com. If you're using drone technology for business, fun, or research and would like to share your experience on the show, please visit our website and fill out a guest appearance application. And don't forget to follow us on your favorite social media channels.